Creating the Perfect Company from the organizational experts, Multiview Incorporated. This content is based on MBI's work with over 1,300 organizations, extracting 989 data elements with 922 cross-calculations over 27 years on a monthly basis, and then systematizing the operational success patterns of the 90th percentile. Our intent is to get beyond the brag and the boast, and simply share insights from our experience without manipulation or coercion to sell anything, except helpful ideas. These messages range from intimate recordings from the Awakened Forest to concerts, national conferences, and broadcasts.
What would an effective training program look like? And let me just go ahead and say this. Okay, so you're watching in your office and you're aware that your HR person is not watching this. Go grab them right now. Go grab them right now. You might even get IT here for the first part of it, and that's fine. Just because they do play some role in this, at least for this section. So page 136, and let's go ahead and do this. And what we want to do is get an idea of what this is going to look like. Basically, the vision. Again, I do all this work with CEOs and different organizations. And the vision is just like giving people a vision into their lives, or a vision into their potentials, a glimpse into their possibilities. A vision should give energy, a vibration. And you want to make something different. But in order for you to know about your potentials, you have to see it in your head. They take it from the idea realm of the intangible and give it life through your intention before that thing will manifest. And that's what we're doing here. And I'll just say this. These practices that we're going through, again, are the 90th percentile. And either you can say, yes, we are doing that, Andrew, or really, no, we're not. Or maybe you're near beer. Or someplace, in between. But I guarantee most people aren't doing this. And this is just taking the very best elements from everybody, all our, nearly 1,000 clients that benchmark all that, taking the very best and distilling it into one organizational training system. And so that's what this section is on. Okay, first of all, we break people development, or our people system, into 4 distinct processes. We have a people attraction process. We have a people selection process. Who are we going to pick from those that want to work at our organization? Of those that we do select, how do we develop them? That's people development process. And then when we put this investment in these people, this huge investment, when you really get down to it, how do we retain that talent? So we don't lose them, lose that investment, and even worse, if they're talented, go off to another organization and use those practices against us. For example, I was thinking about one hospice south of us is a significant hospice, and we were putting in the model, and the CFO took a look at the CEO and says, this ain't happening. This person doesn't have the know-how or the juice to pull this off. You know what? This is hot enough. I'm going to start my own hospice. And this guy's just rocking it. but they're doing the model. They're doing the success, the proven, quantified practices that have worked. Because he, on some level, had the intelligence to recognize where he was, what they were trying to do, ain't happening. And by the way, that hospice didn't get it. And then he's running circles around him. Again, why this happens like this, I don't know. We share liberally with anyone. But it's kind of that thing for the one that has ears to hear, to hear. You know, it's a combination of intelligence. By the way, let's just define intelligence. I'll hit this later on. Intelligence in our world is pattern recognition. Recognizing that the entire world is patterns. Random does not exist. Andrew, what do you mean random doesn't happen? I'm saying it doesn't exist. Just like a meteorite that hits this planet and extinguishes half of all life on it. It happens. It just doesn't happen that frequently. But there's all kinds of evidence that we've been hit a lot of times. Or if you go out and have a fender bender. Well, that's not random. It happens thousands of times a day. Just that doesn't happen to you every day. So recognizing patterns. And patterns, what's the value? They have planning value. They have survival and profit value. If we recognize that in the natural world that there's times when things get colder and the leaves fall off the tree and there's not much food around and all that. And then there's a time when things grow and it's abundant and it's warm and there's lots of food. The intelligence goes, you know, this happens regularly and maybe we got a hold of, let's not eat up all our nuts. Let's hold a few back. Rather than be the foolish person that gobbles up all their Medicare nuts and goes, oops, forgot about winter. That's intelligence. And you want to surround yourself with the most intelligent people you can. Link your wagon to a winner. I remember Norman told me that, and I'm going, my God. And so, I'll just say this, even in peer groups, because a lot of people love peer groups, hospice groups that do this. A lot of times those peer groups will hold you back because of the herd mentality. So, like economically, if you're not doing that well economically, hang around winners. I took this one billionaire into this one. I'm on a board with him, and I said, man, how do you do it? How do you do it? And I've done that, many times. But the point is, when you identify people that have gotten to a certain level or have done things, that's who you want to learn something. That's who I would start with to imitate. Whatever. So that's been a pretty regular practice. So you want to basically, and I'm not saying it's a higher consciousness on any kind of moralistic, but they know things. Okay, so with that said, people system divided into 4 distinct areas of focus to make a whole. Now, I like to substitute talent rather than people, okay, because I think it's a more powerful word of what I'm trying to liberate. Okay. You want to set specific time expectations as far as how long it will take you to develop people to a certain level, especially people in the onboarding process. For example, we expect an RN to be fully trained to be able to take on a caseload in 28 days. That's with weekends included. And, maybe an aide 14 days, an accountant 21, call reps, whatever. but you focus us. We tend to give less time because the more time you allow, the sloppier you get. It also has to be enough. There are too many organizations that have a day or two, and then they just cut people loose, and they wonder why people butcher their work and scar permanently the emotions of patients and families. But yet, what's the shop slogan? People are our greatest asset. That's BS in most organizations. I can tell you when I get off the plane, because I fly most places, and they pick me up at the airport, and what's the first thing you say? Take me to your leader. As I get off my spaceship. And then, okay, I meet the CEO, because that's my primary student. Now, don't take that in a demeaning, but that's why we're being brought in. And I do a quick scan. Shh. And with three things. I'm looking for intelligence, energy, and integrity. And then all those culminate in the quality of the most successful people on the planet, which is self-control, or self-regulation, or focus. And usually you can get to the kind of intelligence thing, you can get a pretty good beat on that. Energy, they might be depressed though, or whatever. So you look at all these things with that fair sense of fair play and equity, and where they're at, and all this. Integrity usually manifests later on, and self-control is obvious, because if they're trying to go in all these different directions, obviously it's not a quality situation. You got to do a Steve Jobs and say, here is where we're going to focus. Like we get these calls from these large health systems that suddenly their hospice or home health is the most profitable business segment in the entire thing. And they want to do this, and I have to say, hey, Hoss, hold on. Or ma'am, I don't know if you can do this. You're trying to run 50 businesses. And you may end up with a great hospice or home care wing. Maybe your cancer center will be great or whatever. The rest of your stuff's probably going to be mediocre to crap. Because you're trying to run 50 businesses. Choose what you're going to be extraordinary at. I'm trying to do that in music right now. Creative, because it's a different animal. And we'll have fun doing it, but I can't help but believe that the practices for the 90th percentile will not prevail on some level. And plus it's fun. But you set a time limit, and what does that do? Especially a little bit less. All the crap stuff, all the fluff just kind of goes away. And for example, when we're doing transformation or whatever you want to call it, we don't call it orientation or boreorientation, the cure for insomnia, or onboarding, or you want to use sexier language and precise language, but something that big's going to happen. And of course, then you can't disappoint people. But you want it to be something that's so memorable that wow, that was the greatest training I have ever been in. I've never worked at a place that really did this. And I am scared even. I didn't think I could do it. But now I'm confident. I'm empowered. They tested me. They videotaped me. They had very high standards. They were demanding. It's just like the folks that come out of the Marine Corps. Or other elite organizations. And there's this, I'll say, healthy organizational pride. There's a negative pride that calibrates at 190 that you don't want, that's undesirable. Because that comes out of almost a fear-based kind of thing. Whereas, no, I am so, and I know you're doing that. I see evidence all over the place of the marvelous things you're doing out west. But, also I'll just say this. Who is really the chief teaching officer of any organization? The CEO. Because everybody's looking at this position And first they're saying, I'm working for a winner, or they're saying, we're screwed. They're also taking a look at this person and taking their performance and behavioral cues. Because we lead by example. As we like to say, you lead from the front. And so that, again, I can just go, okay, here we go. Chris Carter's, an incredible leader and attracts incredible talent, and that's part of the formula. So therefore, leaders just become conscious that if they got quality issues or economic performance issues, you got to get out that mirror and go, man, it is all coming from me. It's not coming from Medicare. It's not so much coming from competition or the carve-in or whatever excuse people want to make. Because we can point to people that are winning in any situation. Competition, there's 100 other hospices. And half of them are struggling, and then, man, there's the ones that are just thriving. And you can go right back to that leader. So even the recognition of a CEO of their responsibility, their professional obligation to model the behaviors and performance that you want. And all leaders have to do that. Lip service doesn't work. Lead from the front. Be the real deal. Okay. I'll just say this. At the bottom of this page is an important statement. On page 137. Staff want to believe that they are talented and well-trained, and we must transform this desire from a want into a certainty. Or there's no way they can come out of this program and not know that is the best training they have ever been through. It was transformative. My life has changed. My professional life is better. My personal life has been impacted. That's a life-changing. And half the time, let me just say this, you are changing people's views, perceptions, or feelings about the world. So some of you, the lower calibrations probably blew off the first part of what we were talking about. Because they go, well, this is stuff that's kind of hard to touch, Andrew. He's getting into this. That's what a lower consciousness would do. Because they don't value it. Okay. So limit the time. This will cause you to get focused. So let's break down the first step, which is the talent attraction process. First, you create super ads that will pull candidates in who are the type of people that you want to work with. And at rates usually 50 to 80, sometimes hundreds of times or percent higher than other ads from similar organizations. Candidates are directed to the website. We don't want to see you. We don't want to see you. I mean, sometimes you know people and you definitely want to go after people, known talents that exist. But you also, it's nice to have that objectivity. Okay? And so, what do these super ads have in them? What do they contain? Well, you're always selling a payoff because all forms of life gravitate towards a payoff. Right? Compensation. Again, compensation is not just money, it's also in the environment, how we experience life, all that. And I'll say that's actually the higher one because money's an abstraction. Again, you can't eat money. It represents economic energy. But like say, even the amoeba, let's take the single-celled organism, operates like you do. What does amoeba do? Well, it gravitates towards the slightest glimmer of warmth or food or something that's life-affirming and goes away from those that take away life. And you do the same thing. You do the same thing in all our decisions. Again, a lot of us are under the illusion that we are sacrificing for our kids. The truth is that we are making choices among an array of alternatives and picking the one that seems best to us. It feels better to try to raise our children rather than just let them go wild. There's the payoff. That's why we're doing it. So we all do things for some type of payoff or compensation. That's why compensation, again, is the main way that you teach people, because it provides some motivation or inspiration. It can be a goal even. But what do these ads have? At least two things. I think that you sell your inspirational, spiritual, electric work atmosphere or work environment, and you highlight that more than the financial in these ads. Now, with this said, the financial is important because that's the silvery coin or the shining coin that gets their attention often, even if they're at a certain consciousness level. But everybody wants to be paid well, right? Everyone would like to be paid what they feel they're worth. So the money might be the shiny object that gets their attention. But I'll just say this, no matter how much you pay people, it runs out. I had some folks that they have paid me just truckloads of money every month just to be associated with Multiview. And in one of those situations, I'll just say I just quit the whole thing because, yeah, I'm in the letterhead or whatever, and they're parading around, they're doing the model, but they had deviated from the model. And I had brought this up many times. Hey, this isn't really the way that we would be doing it. Don't use our brand if you're not doing it. And so what I do? I quit. A bunch of money isn't going to hold Mr. Reed because I'm not going to do it. And this explains why you can hire people at high compensation and lose these talented people. Why? Because what they're really searching for is life. They're looking for the garden. They're looking for a place where their potentials are going to be liberated, where they can be all they can be, where they can achieve self-realization, self-actualization. Man, that's what they want. And the rest of the world is not serving that up, and that's what makes us easier than we perceive. Except for the fact that we actually have to become that awakened, enlightened, and alive person that would inspire people. I keep books on topics. Like if I have an inspiration or something that has to do with the topic of inspiration, it goes in the book. You know, inspire is active, alive. So when you're selling your organization to the external world, again, easier to contrast than what we think. Just like brand new hospice we're starting up out west, one I'm associated with. We're not, there's all kinds of other hospices. We're having zero issue in attracting top talented clinicians. Heck, we have more clinicians than we need. But yet, what's the rest of the healthcare world saying? Oh, there's a nursing shortage. Oh, Andrew, you don't understand. There's all this lack, weenie, weakling, victim excuse. Rather than saying, let's get the mirror out. And that's not the only hospices. There are other ones. And that's when I say the only ones I'm interested in working with directly and closely are those that want to have this more enlightened culture, that are serving up life and helping people experience the world different. And there are truckloads of clinicians that would love to have that. but yet they go through orientation, their work atmospheres or whatever. They got, you know, a leader that has all these traditional negative views, or just doesn't know how to do it because maybe they haven't been provided the tools. Okay, so our ads that we put out, we want to brand it, the new life, new care, whatever. So the first thing we sell is the atmosphere. Boom, that's what this has to do. The second thing you sell is your compensation system monetarily. And you want to really limit the salaries. Like at this hospice, $70,000 top salary. For a CEO even. I mean, and have the bulk of it based on performance and results, just like the natural world would work. Okay, for example, I'm the highest salaried employee at Multiview. I have a salary of $65,000 a year. But yet, you know, I may make 20, 30 times that, no problem. But based on producing results, working my ass off. I mean, tapping into whatever. And that's part of what makes this a just world. Hell, I don't care if you're in an iron lung because a drunk driver hits you. Are you going to play the victim card, say, woe is me, crying my beer? Or are you going to say, what can I do from this? What good can I do? Well, can you make that nurse laugh? Say, hey, you know, I'm keeping the iron lung makers in business, providing jobs for the economy. Or can you build a factory out of your mind, like the one gentleman did in Wisconsin? Some people say, well, I can't do whatever, Andrew, because I don't feel well or I'm sick. Well, let me just tell you, a lot of great things have been built by people that don't feel very good. I went through a decade of being sick, accomplished some pretty amazing things. And maybe that pain, that suffering, that physical vertigo and things like that I was suffering from, I mean, there is a purpose. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist. Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep it light. Okay, so those are two key elements to your ads. And let me show you, so the two primary reasons people are attracted to your organization is the atmosphere and pay. But pay normally is the first thing they're going to grab onto. And second, they're going to walk around and go, man, this is a cool place to work. I mean, Wayne, you're running camera one here, cam one. I mean, has your life been impacted by Multiview?
Absolutely, it's changed every aspect of my life.
Like just how you look at things? I mean,
yeah, how I see the world, how I carry myself, everything.
Nancy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the concept of Multiview it's so far-reaching in my life now, and more than it ever was before. Just, you know, troubleshooting with people, and if I have a problem, throwing it out to the people that I know, the talented people that I work with, and kind of collecting different aspects of people's perspective to come up with that best known practice.
What's your level of happiness? Has it increased?
Exponentially.
Your level of frustration?
Much less.
Okay. Those are just subtle hints that your culture is doing something. When it starts to change the view, the multi-view of how we experience our lives. And the point is, we all have the potential to do this. So let's take a look at a few of these different ads. In the people attraction process, especially for hospice, the central demographic is what? Is that people are attracted to hospice work. And what are they seeking? Meaning and purpose. What are the words they use to describe when they first come to hospice? That I was called, I was led, I was guided. But yet, most hospices have turnover rates. So they come into this thinking they're going to be doing whatever, because that's the image they have. And then they work for a while and leave. The average turnover for nurses and really most clinicians is around 25%. I think it's 26% for RNs, 24% for social workers, 23% for aides, depending on what study you're looking at. Well, there's no way that you can have any turnover ratio close to that and have any legitimate claim to quality. How can you be losing a quarter of your people every year and have claim to quality? We like it around 5% or in single digits. That's when you start now, hey man, we got a quality thing going on here. We're serving something up. But you think about this, they come in with these spiritual aspirations of gaining meaning, purpose, whatever, and they are disappointed and they leave. It should be obvious to people. But the obvious is not so obvious to us, it seems. So we want to attract these spiritually oriented candidates. And here's the big kicker. Because they understand accountability on a much higher level. We did not take the deep dive into accountability right out of the gate here. But it's almost as easy as saying we're going to be working with mature people that are going to own their work, that are going to do it to the standards of the organization because they care about patients and families, moms and dads. They also care about setting up their fellow clinicians for success by doing their work so that everybody can count on each other. Their documentation is going to be done. And that's part of the secret of going, again, thousands of visits, days and weeks without a single service failure complaint or documentation error to find accountable people, rather than the child that says, the dog ate my homework. I couldn't do it because of this. Spiritually oriented people get accountability because they realize they have, if every hair in my head is numbered, every act I do is registered in me or in the universe or with God or whatever, then I better really make an effort to do a great job. And those people are easier to train. They will stick with the organization. You will have fewer frustrations and all that. You need less people to operate the organization. And the blessings or benefits just keep going. Because you're working with these adults rather than the child, the complainer. That doesn't seem fair to me. Kind of folks. Okay. So you run your ads, but you'll also find that just from sheer word of mouth, water cooler speak, the word on the street, that is an incredibly effective way of getting clinicians. Now you have to watch that you don't raid people that are working at the hospital or in the nursing homes, because then they won't refer. So again, there's a little bit of grace and tact that is around that, but you'll get a lot of folks from that. And what do these ads look like? And you want some that are so positive that they actually jar people. They actually jar people. We do that with voice memos and even like with my emails and stuff. I mean, I try to teach class or MBI folks that you jar people with this positivity. The people go, whoa, what was that? I mean, there are people that actually view the world much different. Yes. Boy, wouldn't I like to work there? Yeah. So here it is. Wanted, superstar clinical talent for a world-class healthcare organization where every aspect of the care experience is considered. People that are successful within our system of care aspire to provide the highest quality experience to all and love learning as well as teaching. Our cultural environment is a balance of purposeful and spiritually rich work with excellent rewards based on providing extraordinary value. Again, please apply through our website. Go to the website. Go to the website. No phone calls, please. Go to the website. Because we're going to be using the website to do so much of the work for us. Here's another one. Seeking special RN. Do you want to work with an organization that lets you actually do nursing? That helps you be what you want to be? We don't know your name, but we know the type of person you are. You're a professional, and you want to be treated as a professional. And you want to be paid what you are worth. You want to grow in your skills and as a person. And you want to work with a peer group with incredibly high standards. A group of professionals like you who inspire you to become more and more exceptional. If this is you, please visit the Sunny Day website in the Extraordinary Employment Opportunities section. Okay, so we're giving them, we don't know your name, but we know the type of person you are. Okay, that's an extraordinary insight, because you want to make it elite enough that not everybody gets in. It's like I get all these people that want to work for Multiview. We don't have any problem finding folks. I mean, I got lists of, CEOs, some of the highest levels that say, man, could I get in on this? And a lot of times there's just not any room at the inn, so to speak. Or we set up a situation where here's what it looks like, and this is what you'll have to make it. Well, put it this way, there's always room at the inn. But you got to make it happen. And you got to forget the big salary. I mean, if Andrew's getting 65, we'll give something there, but boy, you better be really pulling it in. And that's how you can get in. Like, I'll say, like Bill Taylor. I mean, we didn't have a position. But he said, bring me on at minimum wage. And we got all these folks that just said, just let me in the door. Pay me whatever. Or I'll volunteer even. And then they prove themselves, and then, you end up, holy cow, this is fantastic. Because the economics always follow value. Okay. So there is your attraction process. Not that too much, but distinct points. And let me say one thing that I didn't probably say that well. When you're presenting the compensation system, I would say that this is what our average nurse makes. This is what the average social worker or aide make. It's constructed into 3 categories. A very nominal, humble base, a performance component, and a standards component. And if you do not do the standards component, that is immediately removed, and all our systems have been sensitized to detect any deviation from standards. Normally, for most clinicians, that's 5%. The standards bonus is just gone if there's any documentation issues or a complaint or what have you. Just gone. It reappears the next pay cycle, but it's gone for that period. So that's how you present it. This is what our average. And normally it's a much higher amount. I mean, it might be 5, 10 grand more than competitors. Because you need less people because of the quality. So now we're at the talent selection process. And in those ads, where do we direct people? Go to the website, go to the website, go to the website. This is why I said, go get your IT person. Or really, I should have said, whoever handles your website. Because we create a special section of that website that we might call extraordinary or liberation or employment opportunities or whatever. But you want a place that's fairly pregnant or visible, I should say, on the website that, well, this is a hot dog place to work. So they click on it, and who appears? Normally it's the CEO. Doesn't have to be the CEO, but I like the CEO. And the CEO basically goes through the vision and values. We are teaching culture, not a provider of care. We're here to liberate your potentials. And we're going to take you on a journey if you're that type of person. and your life will be great and better. But cast that vision, what that looks like. And then after that, a short little test with maybe 5 questions. They don't have to get 100% on this. But right there, you're signaling, oh my God, they test. This is a serious deal. Okay. But I would definitely emphasize the spiritually oriented aspect in that video. How long should that video be? My opinion is that it should be, I'll say 3 to 8 minutes long. It really just depends, and if it has the juice. Does it have the fire? And how long does it take you to capture that? Next, if you have a little box there that says, I'm a nurse, I'm applying for a nurse position. They check that, and then what pops up? There would be basically maybe 35 questions, fairly tricky questions, or maybe it doesn't have to be 35, plus a written narrative that they would use in documentation. Oh my God, these people are serious. And you don't have to spend much money on this. This might be SurveyMonkey or something like that you embed into your website. So it doesn't have to cost a lot. But, and again, you kind of know how people write, which is indicative of their communication skills. And it's not like you need Oxford scholars all over the place as far as their communication skills. It just depends really on, you'd expect different levels for where people are in their stage of life. And be cool with that. That's one thing I will say this. When you're actually engaged in elevating people's consciousness and liberating people's potential, you'll find that people's language will change, their general literacy, all will go to much more sophisticated levels. And again, they get glimpses of different ways of perceiving the world or what they can be. And I sniff that one. I'd like to kind of be like that. And again, this is all empowerment. It's what people want. Okay, so they watch the video. They take the competencies test, so to speak. And again, they do not have to get 100% on that. But you want to add sufficient things that, hey, this person knows what they're doing. Okay. Next, this puzzle where they have to match words appears. And what this is specifically is the Steve Byram method. Basically, it's the Hartman value system, Steve Byram method particularly. This is the same system that's used by the Citadel, a Mayo Clinic, other elite organizations. And what does this puzzle tell us? It tells us about a person's professional judgment. We know there are all kinds of people classification systems. You got Myers-Briggs, you got DISC, you got PI or predictive index, and they all have their place and value. Most of them based on the 4 quadrants of hypocrisies years ago. But this is the only known system that can quickly identify a person's level of judgment, professional judgment. Why is that important? Well, in hospice or home health work, or really any home care work, are we able to supervise every visit? No, most work is done autonomously. And our entire reputation as a company can go down in flames with the careless person with poor judgment that gives somebody 50 times the medications they should have that kill them, and then they don't even have the integrity to report it up for 2 weeks. Obviously, I'm referencing real life. So I got to have somebody that's attracted to the vision with high integrity, someone that has the technical competence to actually do the care, And I got to know if this person has good sense not to smoke dope before the visit. Or why this person is speed and this person wouldn't, or whatever. That's judgment. So we can only hire people with great. And this doesn't cost that much. I'll just say this. And I've got the contact information for Byram here. Anyway, great stuff. Okay. Let's park it right there and let's debrief. All they have done is go up to the extraordinary employment opportunities section, or liberation, or whatever we want to call it, section. What do we know about these people? I'll let y'all help me out here. I've been talking too much and I get tired of my own voice.
They don't have traditional views as far as they were attracted to our non-traditional job
Okay.
posting.
Okay. Hey, I'm working for a different company. Cool.
They're spiritually minded, looking for accountability and for something more out of their life than what they currently have.
And looking at their professional judgment, they want to know how I can put something together. I think that's, makes you think, okay, do I really want to put in that much energy and effort? Am I that type of a person?
Yes, because we're hitting in, like Napoleon Hill would have said, of anyone that's really done things, it comes from personal initiative. This is, again, part of not coddling people. Because, again, you set, like kids, you set them up for failure when you give them too much, and where they don't have to, like, struggle and make it and gain their belief, right, when you spoil a kid. So these are already kind of go-getters, personal initiative. What about computers?
I was going to say they can run an EMR. They know how to.
Yeah, they already are computer inclined. They also will tend to be self-learners because they have that DNA or that gene of personal initiative. So, what do we know? We know a little about their technical competence. What do we know about even their documentation or communication, or at least written communication? We've got an inkling into that. So, we know a lot about these people. How much time have we spent?
260.
Other than developing the website, there you go. Very efficient system. How many hospices do you know that do this? Okay. I'm laying it out, how you can do this, folks.
I think it shows self-confidence too, Andrew, because they're willing to put themselves, they're going to take the test, they're going to demonstrate their documentation capabilities, and you have to be a somewhat confident person in order to do that.
Yes. Definitely. Get a measure of confidence and all that too. Okay, so there's that part of it, but we're still in people selection. Next, after they pass that adequately, then again, they don't have to get 100% on all that test. Then they get a phone call from us. And normally we got two people from representatives from the hospice or from the company on the line. And it can be a speaker type system or whatever. And they both have a standardized set of questions that they would go through, for the different disciplines. And the very first thing on that is, do I like this person? Yes or no. Binary. And so, you call up the candidate, and within the first 2 or 3 sentences, each person from the hospice side says, do I like this person? Yes or no. And if, basically how they come across energetically. And if there's 2 no's, you just start wrapping it up and say, hey, Jennifer, we just wanted to thank you for calling Sunny Day Hospice and let you know that we got all your information here and great. Obviously, you also might have some place where they can put up the form, you know, if they want to put their resume or cover letter and all that too. But just want to let you know that. And usually people are actually satisfied with that. But if there's 2 yeses, obviously you proceed with the rest of the questions. Or if you get a yes/no, you proceed with the questions. And sometimes this can be done by one person if you just have someone that I call a good picker. Some people just have a gift at picking, but otherwise, you know, 2 people is fairly reliable. Next is the formal interview. Okay, so you get down through your questions. It's like, come on, we'd like to, you know, because you want to set your eyes on somebody. But let me just say, one of the reasons that we really don't want to see the person before is because that gets in the way of objectivity. And we know that more and more of the care experience is going to be done via telecommunicative means. Right? How much care is done over the phone? Tremendous. And it's increasing. So therefore, all we know is it is very difficult to drop a completely new personality into a human being. I mean, if somebody has the personality of a cardboard box or sandpaper, just let them work at the other hospice. We want to, again, have delightful people. All I know is that within 2 or 3 seconds, a human being is very perceptive and can tell approximately where they were raised, their section of the country, their educational level, sometimes whether they're a smoker or not, how they feel about their organization, energetically. I mean, within seconds. So we put incredible emphasis on that. Then when we get them in, and this is explained pretty well in the book, and perhaps we should take a look at that. But how many organizations almost default that that's one of the first things they do is the interview? How ridiculous of a process is that? And they waste tons of time with people that are never going to work out in the culture. And so these questions, and you go to page like 166, 167. There's a list, but I'm going to kind of fast forward here. Obviously, you want to know what they know about the organization. And usually people that have gone through this actually know quite a bit about the organization already. What does accountability mean to you? Okay, because here we're trying to discern whether they're a mature person or they're going to act like a child when they deviate from standard. And most human beings are going to deviate from standard at some point, and that will have to be addressed as immediate as you can. Because deferred pain is not very effective. And there has to be a degree of pain associated with non-standard. And then I would, like 6 there, I would actually present a situation. As our EMR and other systems are sensitized to detect non-standard documentation performance, how will you react when your non-standard documentation is pointed out? And the mature person basically has a 2-word answer: my bad. Okay. So there's a few of those. And then we get them, towards the end of the interview, and it's like, what have you taught well in the past? And they go, well, at the Boy Scout meetings, I used to teach knot tying and bowlines and square knots and what have you, half hitches. And I said, okay, hold that thought. Can you please sign this video release form? Okay, and then follow me, and they see the film camera, the video camera, and it's like, Okay, I would like you to teach me what you just said that you could teach well for about 2 or 3 minutes. Go. And right there you find out whether they can teach. Why are we doing this? Because we are teaching culture. Teaching is the skill which you will be graded on and evaluated within our culture because it is what we value. And right there you smoke people out. I remember this one gal, I better not say what hospice, it's like the world's largest. Anyway, she was applying with us when we were in California. And I said, okay, now I need you to teach that for us. And I did this. And boy, as soon as I did that, man, the beads of sweat just appeared. And she had a jacket on, that jacket came off, and it's like, woo! And we ended up hiring her, but I mean, she's kind of a green banana, but she ended up doing pretty well. And we use this kind of technique at the conference center all the time. Wayne, Micah, and everyone that helped me film all the thousands of people that have historically come to the mountaintop to our programs. As soon as they walk through the door, we do it. Again, it's part of first day signaling, which there's a whole chapter in the book about that and how important first day signaling and all that is. And I might as well go ahead and hit a couple other points here. If we do have some HR people here, let me just point out, obviously the cost of turnover is huge, and we've already talked about that. What do you lose from a bad hire? Time, money, misdirection, loss of focus, internal conflict sometimes if they don't get your culture, they stir up a lot of trouble, frustration. Okay. And I'll just say this, in putting these kinds of innovations into a hospice, what are we faced with most of the time? I'll call them the business prevention units. We just have to call them out for what they are. When we're doing magic engagements, we have to call this out. It could be the leader of education, that kind of has this. And usually body language gives people away. Could be HR. Could be compliance. A lot of compliance people are really, pretty stiff. And sometimes you want stiff in some positions. Or it could be IT over here. Or it could be a CFNO saying, well, we can't pay like that. And we have to, or the HR person said, well, we can't pay like that, or we can't. But recognizing if we're being the ones that are holding our entire organization back because of very rigid beliefs of the way we think things should be done. Okay. Anyway, that's that. But with that said, that video, that proof, and here I'm on page 155 in the manual, but it talks about these first 2-3 sentences. And HR, one of the things that is fantastic, and this is on the next page, 156, is that you go through the org chart, identifying every position in the organization and say what are maybe the 1, 2, maybe 3 characteristics or chief characteristics of people that have been successful in that position. And I've got a list of some of these things on page 158. CEOs, we hire a lot of CEOs for hospices and connect that need with the person. Obviously, the ability to create and communicate a captivating vision. I got to have somebody that can do that. The ability to sell the idea. And that has self-control, that will not go in and just try to do all these extracurricular programs, especially not-for-profit CEOs. When it's not their money on the line, a lot of times they'll go off to conference and there isn't a single idea or program that they don't fall in love with. and they don't realize that they're destroying their organization in the process. Well, we do a lot of financial stuff. We had a very successful accounting area where we did the books for healthcare organizations. We sold it. Why? I didn't want to be in the accounting business. I felt like being in the accounting business, processing transactions, took us away from being able to quantify and systematize best known practices, even though it was a moneymaker. So, and then we sold it to the employees. And they paid like $1 million for it. So it was high value to them. And they're doing great. And that's Blackmore, by the way. So, and I hope I didn't say anything I shouldn't have. By the way, when you're doing a video and you might want to edit it later on, here's what you do. You clap, and then they can just look at the audio signal and say, okay, Andrew clapped right here. That's where I need to make the edit. And it makes the life of your editors. Because let me just say this. There's all kinds of master stuff. But one of the things you do is that you set up in your main teaching areas where it's easy to record every single training session. Maybe not always the video, but always the audio. And we just mount speakers in every training session. Why? It's because you don't know when you're going to have your best teaching performance. You don't know. It's beyond command. It's a gift. And all I know is that I've flown into places where my plane gets in at 3 o'clock in the morning, or I get to bed, I'll say at 3 o'clock in the morning. I got to get up at 7 and teach or whatever. Or even in music. You got these crazy travel things that happen or whatever. And all I know is sometimes those are the most magical ones. When your brain is only half there, your energy level is low, and you're pulling it all from your heart. Just like some of your best concerts or nervy things, you can just give your just best, and everybody gets it because it's real. And it's not coming from some shallow, superficial place, and you connect. And you cannot resurrect that same magic again. But if you have it recorded, you can share it and it lives on. And that's why when I'm evaluating training physical environments, and we got a whole section on your design of your physical spaces. That's one of your points. You record every training. And a little league organization wouldn't, because this somehow has not dawned on them. And these can be used for the creation of your self-learning modules. But the audio always. Visual's nice, but I find that the audio is the big thing, because then you can get redeemed windshield time and all that. Again, going through, again, every position on the org chart, HR, so you know what you're hiring for. Like your CFO, for example, very detail-oriented, and we want aggressive or action-oriented. Because there's way too many smart guys or folks, and put it this way, you know you have an issue if your CFO hands you a financial report and says, here's your financial report, give or take 10, 20 grand, it's close. You got issues. What do you want? You want a CFO that's anal retentive. I mean, pucker. We're can crushing. Anal retentive. But it also has the guts to do stuff. And I want someone that's going to get in the trenches and learn how to do visits. Because what right does a CFO have telling a bunch of clinicians that this is what the caseloads need to be and all that when they haven't really been in it? When I say they don't have to be a nurse, but I'm saying do everything they can to get familiar with what the folks on the front line are experiencing. This is integrity. And people can sense this. Volunteer coordinators. Look at that one. CEO-like capabilities. Able to organize, I'll say, thousands of people. Inspire them. One of the highest paid positions in an organization that they might make $250,000 a year if they're good at what they do. And they get paid by the number of volunteer hours with radically low base. We might only pay them $25,000 a year for salary. But then, $2, $3, $4, $5 per volunteer hour. Most organizations pay $19 per volunteer hour when you really calculate it. But receptionists, all that. That's a big thing. I'm going to go further. I'll get ahead of myself. Here's another HR thing since I have your attention right now. I would like, or best known practice is to inventory the talents, the experience, and the dreams of all of your employees so that you know what you're working with. This allows that if you have opportunities or anything like that, that you can identify people that are likely to work out. But it's an inventory, just like you would inventory, your medical supplies, right? And this gives us insight in these individuals. Right now we've put eyeballs on the person because the point is, I'm very sensitive to the energy that the person is throwing off. Because sometimes you just get, well, maybe this isn't the right thing, and that is almost kinesiology on some level. But you just to get a sense of the person. But when you talk about the comp system, here's the importance of saying we pay a low base, or a modest base, or a humble base. Those are 3 different ways you can say it. The bulk of your compensation is going to be based on performance, and we have a standards component that we monitor our systems, and again, this is a bonus that we expect you to get every pay cycle for simply doing your job with no goals, no stretch, just doing the job, and you get this, this 5%. Managers, it might be 20%. Much higher because they're more mature people. Or they should be, but we expect more. But right then and there, when you tell them that they're not going to get the big salary that the hospital's doing or whatever, but you can make more in our system, or our average employee gets this, or we've designed it. Let's just say we've designed it where people will normally get this, and you wanted a higher amount than what's market. Right then and there, you smoke out people that lack confidence with one move. The compensation system informs you whether someone has confidence. Confidence in what? Confidence in themselves and confidence in the organization. So that's a great way to put it. Someone told me that, yeah, we use it to smoke people out. And so if they, I just couldn't even think about this. Well, prideful person or insecure person, go, this is not the place for you. Nancy, let's talk about our conversation. When she came from a traditional kind of hospice background, and I presented the financial piece to you, which we would ask anybody. I don't care if you were a CEO of the largest hospice in the world. And whatever, you're still not going to make more than $65,000 base in our system. And why should you when you can produce all you want, unlimited salary based on performance? Nancy, just share your situation.
So I had always come from a traditional pay environment, and so I had a lot of questions about, kind of how things would be structured, and there are a lot of variables. And I don't know, we probably talked on the phone for maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes tops. And finally I said, you know what, here's the thing. I believe in me. I know I'm a hard worker. I know I'm going to do well in a situation like this. And I believe that you might actually want me to succeed more than I actually do. And so I felt like those two things combined. So it's funny that you say that. I think the confidence in yourself is really important, but I think it's also equally important the confidence that people have in the organization itself.
Yes.
It's a big piece of it.
The point is, I like to look at it as an unlimited thing, and that everybody has the power to take their lives, their economics even. Let's face it, we all make our own economics. You can blame the world, but our economics are our own doing. And they're a result or a consequence of what we have become, or what we have evolved ourselves into. You know. And so there's a lot that has to do with even our will, you know, in it. Okay, so we're through our talent selection process.
We hope you are having the best day of your life. If you need something further, just visit one of the Multiview Incorporated websites or contact us through social media. Smoke signals, carrier pigeons, telepathy have not proven reliable. All calls are answered within 3 rings by a competent, real person. Thank you for listening.